I saw this story once on television about a young lady who was in a terrible car accident. Car went off the road, or she lost control and it kind of flipped over, and somehow she got thrown from the car and laying in the street. She could tell she had broke some bones and dislocated some bones. The first person on the scene was a police officer. He walked up and looked at her and knelt down and kind of put his fingers right on her chest and said an amazing statement. He said, "You're going to be all right. You're going to be all right." Now, he didn't know that, and he probably just said that to calm her and comfort her, but it stuck with her. Even in the ambulance, as she went to the hospital, she remembered him saying that it's going to be all right. It's not going to be easy. And as she went through the hospital for weeks, and then rehab and wheelchair, and finally in crutches, and then she was okay after that. That was her little glimmer of hope, was that little phrase, even though he wasn't sure about that, even though it sure felt like she might pass, she might die. That statement, "You're going to be all right," even though it sounds unreasonable, shouldn't be for a Christian. When fear turns to hope, we're asked to be people of hope, even though we're surrounded by, even maybe in our worst situation, to believe that in the end everything is going to be all right. You know, myself, and I know police officers and paramedics often say that sometimes they meet people on their worst day. And that's not easy. But it's on our worst days, I think sometimes, is that we show the level of our hope and the level of our faith is on those worst days. Now, Jesus walks into a temple today, and they're kind of enjoying a somewhat peace. They're walking around the temple, and they're like mentioning, "Oh, look at all this beautiful jewelry and these beautiful gems, and look at the stonework and how pretty this is." And then Jesus pipes up and tells them, "You see, all this is all going to come down. All this will be torn down. Stone upon stone will be turned over." He's talking about the demolition of the temple, which is total wreck for the Jewish faith. And when he says all this is coming down, immediately they're struck with fear. When will this happen, Lord? How will we know it's going to happen? And one of the first things he says is all through the scriptures is, "You're going to be all right. Don't be terrified. Don't be terrified. It's got to happen this way. You're going to be all right." And then he almost doubles and triples down. He gives them this list. Oh yeah, there's also going to be wars and insurrections, earthquakes, famines, plagues. Wow, that doesn't sound all right to me. And then he says it again. But these things have to happen, and you're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. And I imagine they were again puzzled. Who is he telling us this? And then he gets even more personal. Your family may accuse you, draw you up. Your family may put you to death, may turn against you. That sounds horrific. And then here we go again. But it'll be okay. You're going to be all right. By your perseverance, you will save your life. You will save your lives. Because every hair on your head has been counted. Because of what? What is this all for? Well, then he says, because when all these things happen, whether on a grand scale of earthquakes, famines, and plagues, at some point all of us will be led to give your testimony. When all this happens, you will be led to give testimony as you come before some magistrate, a Jewish or Roman officials. You'll be led to give your testimony. And hopefully we'll have something convincing to say. Hopefully they will have something convincing to say. In other words, they'll be up to bat. And they'll be asked, why do you believe what you believe? And hopefully we'll have something to say. And it brings up really two questions. The first question is, have we been persuaded? Have we persuaded, even though sometimes it seems like the world's falling down? And I don't think it is. Just look at the past 5 years. How many times did we think the whole world was coming to an end? And it wasn't. Have we been persuaded that our Christian faith tells us that everything's going to be all right? Oh, sure, there'll be tough times. Oh, sure, there'll be sickness and death. But do we face it with hope? Are we convinced that we're going to be all right? And if so, can we be persuasive to the people around us that we are a people of hope? Can we be persuasive? Can we be credible that we're going to be all right? Because I would argue that oftentimes doom and gloom can be very tempting. We can be people of doom and gloom. It'll never work. And as always, as Christians, we look to the Master to teach us how to do this, because he taught us most about what it meant to be a saint, be a follower of Christ on his way to the cross and on that cross. Because at Jesus' worst moment, at his rock bottom moment, even when he was tempted in his human nature to say things like, Father, why have you abandoned me? My God, why have you abandoned me? At his rock bottom moment, he was handing out mercy. He was handing out mercy and hope. Even to the men who were pounding those nails into his body, he's saying things like, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Those men around there, he was giving them some hope, because maybe later down the line they realized who they just killed and maybe lost all hope. And maybe they remembered him saying, no, he forgave you. Do you remember that at his worst moment? He started handing out other forms of mercy. Today you'll be with me in paradise. I assure you this day you'll be with me in paradise. But the moment before he dies, he's looking down in front of his cross, not saying, woe is me, feel bad for me. He's taking care of them. Woman, behold your son. Son, behold your mother. Wow. Profound way of saying, you're going to be okay. This is not over. Oh, it looks bad. Really, really bad. But it is not over. I'll share one other story that happened when I was first ordained 19 years ago. We had a young girl in our youth group who was having depression problems and even threatening to hurt herself. We weren't quite sure what to do. Her parents were somewhat involved. And I remember calling a counselor, or maybe even 911, I can't remember. What do I do? What do we do with this young person who's threatening to hurt themselves? Well, you need to get them to a hospital or call the ambulance. You need to do that now. And we'll start setting up, I think it was Shoal Creek. Take them to Shoal Creek now. Next thing you know, it was all in motion. Trying to convince a young girl to go is not easy, though. But after lots of drama, we remember taking her to the hospital. And as she's going in, she sees that we're upset. And as she's walking into this mental hospital facility, she turns and looks at me and say, it'll be okay. She starts consoling me. I get to get in my car and leave. But she's seeing that we're now affected. It'll be okay. I'll be okay. And we were able to drive away in peace and even a little bit of hope. Again, I think sometimes just watching television, which I try not to do anymore, can convince us that the world is coming apart. I don't think it is. I think it actually has Catholic Christians, there's a lot to be hopeful for. Oh, Christianity in general in the West is declining, but in other places it is not. And there's pockets of real strength. One of those pockets is here. And I think we can point to that. So this past weekend, Friday night and yesterday, we had our teen high school youth retreat. Now, what's remarkable about this retreat is not the confirmation retreat, which means it's not mandatory. In other words, this was a weekend retreat that the kids were free to go to or not. And 51 kids came with us, 51 teenagers. In my mind, that's huge. Especially in the season of playoffs and volleyball playoffs and band competition, all these other things, where they're constantly showered by select this or select that. 51 of them came with us, and we spent all weekend with them. And for someone who grew up in the 80s and the 90s, I said Mass for them last night, and there was adults there too. It's like 60, 70 people. But to see in the front row a whole group of teenage girls wearing veils, singing in Latin, all lined up, competing with one another to get in line to go to confession, I was blown away. I was blown away. I didn't think that was real. I don't know what's bringing. We're getting converts out the door. And like I said the other time, I don't think it's because of our good looks that they're coming. There's something else going on, and I'm enjoying it. But it's also the Lord telling us, and I think we can say, as a church, as a parish, as Christians in this country, especially looking at these little pockets of energy with our young people, I think we can say with pretty good confidence, we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right.